We about to make a movie. Ooh-wee!
People of the internet, welcome to the R.E.B.E.L podcast. As always, my name is Arii.Grove, Arii.Grove. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, wherever the internet is, that's where I am. And today I have with me
MadgesdiqCEG.
Awesome.
And together we are MadgesdiqCEG.
Ooh, shit, that was smooth. Nice. So where are y'all from?
Portland, Oregon.
Born and raised.
Yeah.
Nice. So what would you say was the main common thread that tied you two together in the beginning?
The energy, the chemistry, you know. I mean, we met a few years ago at a spoken word event at Madison High School, so we connected there. You know, that was before she was even singing, you know what I mean? So there was just a connection there. And then a few years later, was looking for some female vocals on a couple songs that I was working on for a solo project. By then, she was singing. You know, we had kept in, hit and miss type of contact, and she came to the studio and she immediately started singing, and that was it. Like, in that moment, we knew that something magical was about to happen, and so we just flowed with it, man.
Mm-hmm.
So are you the producer behind it then? Or are you the one making the music? And then you're the one singing? Is that still a dynamic?
No, we are both MCs, I guess you could say. We both sing as well, so I mean, and...
No, she's being a little kind.
Nah, come on. They'll hear it on the EP. They'll hear it for themselves. And then we work with a lot of different producers. Whatever feels right. We don't really go into it with a concept or anything like that. We just go with the flow of the natural, that energy. It comes back to. So there's a few different producers we work with out of Portland, Goals, Tony Ozier, Joey 4K over in, he's Dutch, and I can't remember that.
We got a couple.
Out of Portland, Loudpack.
If you had to pick a few musical artists for each one of you that really influence you as your style, maybe not even directly, but who would they be?
Musical influences. So I guess I can start with that one. So I'll say I'll give more historic, and then I'll bring it to the present day. From a hip hop standpoint, R.E.B.E.L is my favorite MC of all time.
Good choice.
I mean, he's one of the reasons why I started MCing. Of course I like the Method Mans and the Andre 3000s, but if I had to choose one, it would be R.E.B.E.L. Bob Marley, of course, just because of the spiritual message that he brought forth in his music. His music, to me, covered all the aspects that an album should cover. He talked about love. He talked about social, political issues. He talked about inspiring things, wake up and live. He talked about spiritual things. So those would be my top two, although there's a lot more, because I listen to a lot of different music. Marvin Gaye, people who spoke to not only the things that were going on at the time, but who also spoke to more that inner revolution, the spiritual side of things. And then, Sade, for the smooth, that smooth, elegant vibe that she brings, that sensual vibe. And then, moving to today, I say today just because I am inspired by some of the music of today, even though I may not be necessarily a fan of the lyric, the content of the lyric, the stories that are being told, the energy that they're being told with, the openness, the honesty. I think some of these present day, of course I like the J. Cole's, I like Burner Boy out of Nigeria.
Nice.
Coffee, we bang a lot of Coffee.
Yeah, she's awesome.
And on them, and, even like lately I've even been listening to people like Little Durk and Polo
I knew
G.
you was gonna say.
You know what I mean? People like that, because I'm around young people as well, and so that's what they listening to, and I'm not against it. But in terms of like things that poured into my music, it's definitely gonna be something that's a little more conscious, something that's a little bit more spiritually, inclined, that type of thing.
Follow that.
Yeah.
All right. Musical influences, definitely. Well, we were talking about India Arii earlier. She's a big musical influence for me, especially with singing. Hearing her and her vocal range is a lot lower, and that's where my voice kind of sits more naturally, but I have a wide range, and so a lot of times choir teachers, or if I'm doing something where there are different parts to the song, I'll get stuck on the high ends because I can hit those notes. So that's why I switched to singing my own music and really enjoy just creating this music. She really influenced that confidence in that lower range. You got like Alicia Keys, the soulful R&B. And also she's always influenced me to have a passion to also learn to play instruments, be able to write your own music, those kind of things. But even further back, okay, we got like, grew up listening to Muddy Waters and, Ray Charles and B.B. King and Etta James, Nina Simone. A lot of just that soulful things that get you feeling.
Yeah.
And then definitely, that revolutionary, talking about the times and speaking to relate I just like that with that music, and those artists really encouraged me to just relate to relate to my music, I think. Not necessarily to the audience. Like, that's why I was trying to stay away from that word audience, because it's not to relate to the audience. It's that audience that naturally relates to you.
Being true to yourself.
Exactly.
But staying relevant.
Exactly, yeah.
So you did a great job of following that.
Well, with talk of like revolution and political movements and stuff like that, what are your thoughts on what's currently happening?
I'm gonna puff on that one.
You gonna puff on that one?
It's a cold war going on out there right now, and it's not just the external war. It's the internal war going on in everybody, and it's showing up in the world in all of these different ways. Black Lives Matter. Black trans lives matter. Why do we have to say these things? Black lives matter too. It's not that Black lives matter any more than any other life. Why do we have to say that Black lives matter too? So it's not just the external war, but there's also an internal war going on in every person that we need to raise our consciousness and start thinking with more love, from a more loving perspective. Because if we were thinking from that more loving perspective, some of these things wouldn't be going on, because it just in love, those things don't exist.
Yeah, well, I would, just to play devil's advocate, I would say that oftentimes love is used to justify a lot of terrible things that happen too, because a lot of those negative emotions are more easily preyed upon by yourself, because you think, I'm so inebriated with this feeling, and maybe doing something bad is more easily justifiable when in that situation.
Yeah, that's one way of looking at it. Yeah, I was gonna say that. I think it's just a lack of awareness.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? It's a lack of self-awareness. It's a lack of an understanding of who you are. You know what I mean? Like who you truly are as a complete, as a multifaceted being. Mm-hmm. Because you're physical, you're mental, and you're spiritual. So, and the war is being fought on all those levels. You know what I mean? Like, it's a physical thing going out there, obviously, but it's a mental one daily. Like, even if we're not in the streets marching or we're not in the streets rioting, those type of things, the mental war is being played on you the whole time. You know what I mean? As well as the spiritual war. You know what I mean? There's an attack on your energy right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where are you focusing your energy? Can I sap enough energy out of you during the course of the day while you're working? You know what I mean? So that when you leave there, all you want to do is just relax. You know what I mean? And right now, what we need for people to become, that we need to do more work. You know what I mean? More work on ourselves. You know what I mean? I think that if we can begin to do that, that's how you begin to create more sustainability. Like the type of stuff that's going on right now, there's changes being made, obviously. So there's productivity there. You know, from many angles and many levels does this war have to be fought. But at the end of the day, you know what I mean? As consciousness rises, as the frequency of the people rises, as awareness of self and, you know, more understanding. Now, with that love that you were talking about, the love doesn't get tainted by emotion and ego. The love is based on a self-awareness. So now if I'm looking at you, yeah, I realize that we have different colored skin, but that's not what I'm seeing. That's not where my attention is being drawn. My attention is being drawn to the spirit of who you are. You know what I mean? More so than like all the other things that I can conclude based on what I'm looking at. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's easy to draw like quick assumptions about people, you know, and you have that on both sides, right? Because those things are good in some places and bad in others, right? Like if you see somebody with a gun out pointed at you, you're gonna be like, all right, I'm gonna get robbed. You know what I mean? I gotta do something right in this situation. But we bring a lot of that same mentality into a space that doesn't, you know, necessitate it at all.
I mean, to sustain change, the individuals have to change. You can't change a society by changing a collective, because the collective is made up of the individual. Yeah. So if everybody would just start with themselves, you know, what can I do today to make this world a better place? What can I do to become a better person today? You know, what can I do to become more healthy today? Because the more healthier I am, I'm going to think differently. I'm going to have more energy. You know what I mean? My thoughts may be more clear. Maybe I don't get as frustrated when the guy cuts me off on, you know what I mean? Like little stuff that like takes away from us being in that space of self-awareness that cause us to then make other decisions that turn into bigger decisions. You know what I mean? That turn into stuff that now really impacts someone else's life in a negative way. You know what I mean? That's where sustainable focus comes with, you know, but coupled with, you know what I mean, having the space and the opportunity to be able to do that, you know what I mean? Because if you wake up every morning and you don't have that liberty, you don't have that time, maybe you don't have the you know, the money to go buy the organic produce or something like that, or you don't have the time to meditate in the morning per se because you have 2 jobs and 2, you know, multiple kids, whatever it may be. Everybody's situation is different. So, but we have to carve that time, you know, for ourselves somehow, some way. You know, because when you start to do for yourself, then those other things will start to be done for you as well. Yeah.
And what keeps you in a town like Portland? You know, what are some of the like good and the bad things that you see here that
keep you here? Beautiful. Portland is so beautiful. Man, it's a magical city. I mean, if you got the Forest Park across there. Even with all the new construction that's been going on, there's still so much natural beauty. Like, that's one thing I go down to Florida to visit my family. I'm just like, so flat everywhere. I love the natural beauty here. And
yeah, but Florida, you got the sunshine.
Yeah, but you get the sunshine in the summertime here, and you get it throughout. You know, you get it in spurts throughout, and I like the seasons. I like the season change. Florida is, I can go there. I'm gonna be there next week, but it's hot, it's humid, it's fun for a week for me.
No, I'm from South Florida. I love it. I love it.
Nice.
Those palmetto bugs are.
Nah, I love it all. Nah, it's great. I mean, it doesn't come without its drawbacks, though. I mean, I've been in a few hurricanes,
Yeah,
you know, and But at the end of the day, it's like you put your shutters up, you stay inside, you know, you do the best you can, and you'll be fine. I mean, that's why I love my grandmother. I asked her how she was going to do during a hurricane, and she didn't even respond to that question. She just said, I can't find cat litter. Because people will use that as sand and build it up. And you know, and that's her mentality, and that's why I love her to death, because she's strong as hell.
You get that fire.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess to answer that question for myself in terms, I love the city, man. Like, I just love the vibe, you know what I mean? I love the easy flow of it. Growing up here, you know, I loved it for other reasons. And I think, you know, as I got older, I just learned to appreciate, like, the nature's parts of it more. You know what I mean? The fact that you can get to the coast in an hour, you can get to the mountains in an hour, you can hit numerous parks right in the middle of the city and forget that you're actually in the city. You know what I mean? And, you know, I don't mind the rain for a little bit, you know what I mean? But more so, I just, you know, I like the fact that you can, you know, you can move easy. It's an easygoing vibe in a relatively conscious environment. You know, people, you know, no place is perfect, but people seem to be, you know, at least conscious about things that I'm interested in and conscious about as well. So, I mean, I think it's chill. Could it, you know, be a little bit more diverse? Yes. You know what I mean? But, you know, does that lack of diversity prevent you from, you know, being happy here? Or, you know, nah, I don't think so. You know, that's a choice, you know.
Now, talking a lot about, you know, like inner revolution and like self-care and stuff like that, how would you say you move on and, you know, understand from the personal traumas in your life?
Meditation, yoga, getting outside, being in nature, turning off the phone, turning off the TV, turning off the computer. I even put them on airplane mode if I can. The only thing I can't put on airplane mode is the computer, because I like to have the solfeggio frequencies playing at night. But besides that, you know, turn all of those things off and just connect. Those are the things that have really helped me heal from trauma and experiences that, you know, meditation, just that inner work, getting to know myself, like taking myself on dates, and, you know, what does Claire like to do? What does Sage like to do? Who are these two? You know, just.
And besides, you know, for me, besides some of those things, you know, the meditation and, you know, the yoga, I think the most important thing for me has been, or the best tool for me has been writing. You know, and that's not necessarily like writing songs or writing anything in particular, other than getting my thoughts out on paper. You know, because that's how I started writing in the first place. That's how, you know, I didn't come into it writing songs. I came into it just writing how I was feeling on a piece of paper, and then it grew to me now writing, you know, verses and writing songs and things of that nature. So for me, writing is definitely like the biggest thing.
Now, would you say that, I mean, in order to have a full revolution, you know, like a government topple and a complete change of power, almost always in history, it has to take a violent revolution in order to do that. But would you say it is possible in order to, you know, topple a government and like really, you know, change of power, and not just a revision, and being able to do that, you know, without weapons?
Krishna Arjuna.
I mean, to be honest, like, who knows? You know what I mean? Like,
answer, but
I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, nobody truly knows. I mean, you can only
speculate.
You can only think that if I'm operating at the highest level of who I am as a human being, as a spiritual being on this planet, what type of choices am I making? And this may sound far-fetched and out there, but this is just me thinking now.
Yeah.
Now, if I could think that way, and now all of us can begin to think that way, then certain things wouldn't even be necessary. They'll naturally start toppling, you know what I mean? But based on where we are now, in terms of where people are on different levels of their consciousness, you need all those levels You need all those things to be happening sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, do I promote violence? Is that my type of thing? No. You know what I mean? But at the same point in time, like, in certain instances, there's a choice you have to make. What are you going to do? You know what I mean? So, and, excuse me, for certain immediate responses. Now, do I think long term that's the way? No, because it just creates more of that. Mm-hmm. But when you need to get something done immediately, you know what I mean? Like, what's happening, you know, certain things have to get done sometimes. That's not my way of going about it. But that's not that's not where I place my energy in the fight. You know what I mean? But I also don't judge, you know, those that choose that route or feel they have to do that. But I think for long-term sustainability of any living, you know, you have to learn to live in harmony. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, that's any being that lives. You know what I mean? Like, if you're not living in harmony, it's gonna be a problem. So, how do we create more harmony? We raise the level of the consciousness of the people on the planet. I mean, it may take hundreds of years, but we've done hundreds and hundreds of this shit, and look where it's got us.
Yeah.
So just try something different. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Who would you say would be the thinkers and the people that inspire the mindset that you have?
So many. Bob Marley. You know, Haile Selassie.
I haven't heard of her.
Haile Selassie was the emperor of Ethiopia, crowned in 1930. So the King of Kings returned to the earth. So in the Rastafari, you know, way of life, it's not a religion, but way of life, he's seen as God returned to the earth. I mean, there's so many. I mean, Yogananda, you know, Paulo Coelho, Neil Donald Walsh, you know, just people who think on a very universal, Muji. You know, people who think on a universal spiritual level, but who are not so disconnected from everyday life that they're not living it still. You know what I mean? Like, it's not about, like, just floating away. You know what I mean? Like, but you do have a choice every day how you approach life. I don't give a fuck what's happening. You know what I mean? Like, your life could be shitty as fuck, but you can choose to find something within the course of that to focus on. And if you start focus on more of that, then you're going to create more of that. You know what I mean? So, like, I like the vibe, we like the vibe with people who are in that space. Because if not, like, what is the choice? Like, I don't want to be fucking depressed all day. Like, I don't want to be sad and upset and frustrated all day. Like, who the fuck wants to live like that? You know what I mean? And people allow themselves to be drawn in and pulled in, you know what I mean, to shit that, like, they might not even give two fucks about, honestly. But because everybody else is doing it, they jump in.
Well, because it's easy, yeah.
You know, or they get emotionally charged and just start making decisions. Like, you don't do that. When everybody gets chaotic, you sit the fuck still for a second and watch motherfuckers run around crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they're going to exhaust themselves. You know what I mean? They're going to wait, oh, fuck. Energy used, but where did I get? Where did I go? You know what I mean? So it's better to sit back and chill for a second, get a perspective. You know what I mean? And then approach it with some calm. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
You know.
Because for me, I mean, I always do love focusing on positives, and that is really important because oftentimes we focus too much on negatives. But, I mean, how I always like to think, too, is if I'm only focusing on positives, I'm oftentimes missing out on those negative things, and I'm not realizing that there are certain problems. So would you say if you're only focusing on positive things, then you're missing out on an opportunity?
Well, I would say that you don't pretend like they're not present. You know what I mean? I just choose not to attach to it.
Yeah, it's not about not seeing them or recognizing that they're there. It's not about not experiencing them. It's not about not meditating on it. It's just about taking that time and then letting it go.
Yeah.
not attaching to it.
Yeah.
That non-attachment is the key. But you have to experience them, because otherwise you won't learn from it. You won't understand it. You know, as much as we can under or overstand anything.
When you're talking about that personal revolution and stuff like that, do you actively take it to the streets?
To be honest, man, I think I live my life every day that way. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And when I say that, I mean living my life to give back and contribute to my community. You know what I mean? And contribute to, you know, making my community a better place. And that's something that I've been doing my whole life through my actions. So for me, I don't feel like I need to go out and protest. You know, you listen to my music, I've been talking about this shit already. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, for years. Like, my music has always been to raise the level of the consciousness of quote unquote, you know, my people. It's for all people, but I'm saying, like, that's the kind of music that I make. That's the kind of life that I live. You know, I give back, you know, to young people. I go into the schools. I, you know, put on creative writing workshops, you know. I'm a basketball trainer, you know what I mean? I do my work in the community for people with, you know, who look like me.
We're teaching the things that we believe, the yoga, the meditation, to people that need it, which is a big part of why I don't, you know, stress myself out about not going out every night. Because, you know, for example, my roommates, there's a couple of them that, we have a big house, but there's a couple of them that go out and have gone out every single night. I mean, I don't know how many days are 18 or 19 days now that they've gone out in a row. And it takes a lot of energy. And because we're doing all of these other things with the yoga and the meditation, with the music, we have a couple of songs that are really speaking to this time, and it's really important to help get this message out. And for me, I have this energy sometimes, and when I get that energy and that spark, I'm like, all right, let's go share it, because I'm not just out there as another pair of feet on the ground. You know, I get the megaphone and I'm out there like helping lead chants, getting everybody into as one voice. And that's, you know, Nate. Like, I had no more voice, and, you know, I didn't even know who it was, but he was also out there using his voice, being very, very loud. A lot of people are out there, but there's this energy of, like, unsureness. And so some people like Nate and I, when we're out there, have bigger voices and bigger personalities, and use those to get people together and be one group and move as one. But it, one, takes a lot of energy, and two, you know, we're, like he said, living this out in our daily lives. And so to share that message with this music, you know, we've been working on a couple of different music videos and video montages, and way to get the words and the message that can really actually start to affect this mental change, this raise of consciousness that we're talking about, reach a wider group than just Portland. There's it needs to happen. The marches, they need to happen. Unrest needs to happen, but we're two people, and I just, you know, two people are not going to make, not being there in the marches every night aren't going to make a difference when we are doing actively these other things in our lives that are, you know, to work towards that same goal.
What would you say to the people out there that are confused about the Black Lives Matter movement, or don't fully understand what the significance behind that is?
Well, I would probably tell them to just, you know, take a look at the atrocities that, you know, people of darker skin color have experienced. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
Throughout history, it's even in your, you know, not even to the degree, you know what I mean, but it's even in the history books that, you know, your ancestors have written. You know what I mean? So maybe not in detail, but, you know, I think it's obvious. There's an injustice that goes on. There's an unfair, you know, treatment of a certain people. There's a systematic, you know, thing in place to prevent certain people from having certain opportunities that you yourself might have. You know what I mean? So people are treated differently for committing the same crime. You know what I mean? Or even a smaller crime, but get more time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just a situation that has to be changed. You know, and not saying that, you know, people don't do things that should be, you know, they should be held responsible for.
Yeah, absolutely.
But these things should be even across the board. All things should be equal across the board. And then from there, where you end up in the race, that's on you. You know what I mean? But like, at least give me a chance to be in the motherfucking race from the beginning. You know what I mean? And not be like running from 50 yards behind with shackles on too. You know what I mean? Not only on my feet, but you got shackles on my mind. You know, you won't even let me be free. You shackling my religious shit too, my religion. So I'm all fucked up. So that's why it's important, because, you know, quote unquote brown people, black people, you know, Native American people, you know what I mean, indigenous people all over the world have been fucking taken advantage of and exploited and treated as if their lives did not matter. You know what I mean? Literally, you know what I mean? So if someone can't understand that, you know what I mean, then I don't know who I'm talking to. Like, I have to wonder, are you a human being? Like, what kind of being are you? Because it's obvious, and you know, you wouldn't want that to be your experience. So
yeah, I mean, I think that if you were to ask a room of people, like, ask yourself, if you were a person of color, or take the color out of it, ask yourself, would you like to be treated the way that people of color are treated, period? And I don't think that you're gonna say yes. It's not that our lives matter more. That we shouldn't have to say that our lives matter too. We don't think that we should have to put the two at the end of Black Lives Matter. Like, it's just.
But I will say this though, you know, in somewhat of defense, you know, you can only respond, react, behave in ways, in places that you have experience in. You know what I mean? So like, if you're in neighborhoods, or if you're living in cities where you don't have to experience this particular human being that looks different than you from a day-to-day basis, then you're going to settle into a certain comfort zone. You're going to settle into a certain way that you're used to doing things. And when that thing gets kind of broken up a little, whoa, you know what I mean? It could catch you. You don't know how to respond. And if you've been watching TV, you know what I mean, and checking out those images that they're portraying certain people to be, you've already concluded who this person is. You've never even met the person, but you allow some perception by media to create the stigma. So a lot of it is just a misunderstanding, you know, and an inability to put yourself in another person's shoes, because you don't experience those other cultures enough that it makes a difference. You know, so, and we live in a place like that. You know?
If you take a look at the media that has, the way that people of color have been portrayed in media over history, I mean, again, ask yourself, do you want to be portrayed that way? I don't even know when it was, sometime in the 60s, that a woman of color was finally portrayed as something other than a slave. I mean, it's not a slave, a maid, excuse me, portrayed as something other than a maid.
That was like late 40s, early 50s.
Yeah. Way too late in the game. So, you know, not given respectable roles and things like that. Those are the kind of barriers and blocks that have been put in place that, you know, you don't recognize if you're white, because it's not something that you ever come across. And you have to step outside of yourself and look at somebody else's perspective to see how that might affect somebody, and say, oh, that's not right, even though it's not happening to me.
But that's where that self-awareness comes in, that we keep talking about.
Coming through with the good times.
You know what I mean? Because if I'm not in touch with the energetic, spiritual aspect of myself, I can't connect. You know what I mean? Because if We don't share the same experience. We're not in the same economic class. My kids don't go to school with your kids. I shop at a different mall than you. I buy my car at a different dealership than you. You know what I mean? Like, I have no way of, I can't connect. And then if I'm thinking about the mental, you know, and then I just named all those things I just named. So that's mind stuff, you see? So that's just creating more separation. That's making it more difficult for me to understand your situation. Yeah. So if I can cut through those things and get straight to the spirit, now I can feel. That's when I can feel you now, even though I'm not you. You know what I mean? I can feel you because it's like, fuck, because I'm feeling your pain. I can look in your eyes and see, like, fuck. You know what I mean? I can feel that. And what's happening is there's not enough of that.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And so that's why we continue to, like, how, I mean, people are hanging from trees right now. What the fuck? It's 2020, and people are hanging because you want to defend. What are you on? You know what I mean? That you feel you have to defend what you believe so much that you would go hang another human being from a fucking tree and then try to justify that.
And then call it a suicide.
That doesn't make any sense. I don't know who I'm dealing with.
I don't know what I'm dealing with.
All you can do is have compassion for a person like that because they need something. They don't need hate. They hate themselves already. You know what I mean? So they need something different than that. They need some prayer, some upliftment or something because it's ridiculous. And that goes for both ways. And I think a lot of it is just fear.
Absolutely.
You know? And if we gonna be straight, we talking real, we just gonna fucking talk real then.
Yeah.
There's
the biggest weapon right there.
There's certain men, white men on this planet who are fucking scared as fuck of black men. Straight up. Because they know if you create an even playing field, it's gonna be a lot of L's taken in a lot of different areas. You know, well, history is only important when it pertains to them. So our history is not important. You stole all our shit. You know what I mean? You claim all the first for everything, but you weren't the first at anything.
Yep.
You haven't contributed anything really positive besides capitalism, if you call that positive, to the fucking planet. No religions, no spiritual practices, none of the art is what? You know what I mean? You insert yourself in places where you came thousands of years fucking late. You know what I mean? They try to say it's you. You know what I mean? No, that's fucked up. What kind of person does that?
Yeah, definitely.
And so that's what
that jealousy and that fear.
Exactly, it's fear. You feel so you claim a supremacy over because if I allow you the space to breathe, I can compete. But it's not a competition. You're afraid that if it gets flipped, we gonna take out what you've been doing to us on you. We're not like that. That's not the kind of people we are. You know what I mean? We don't want revenge. Just leave us the fuck alone. We just want to be free.
Okay.
That's it. To let us move how we want to move. We don't want no revenge against you. How often do you see a group of brothers go out and terrorize a white guy? Do you see that? You ever see any white guys hanging from trees? You ever see 10 group of brothers just go jump? If we doing anything violent, we doing it against ourselves. We're not in suburban communities breaking in their fucking houses. So what are you scared of us for? We're not even fucking with you like that. You see what I mean? So it's like they just need something to fuck with. Because they unsettled within themselves. Yep. They're running from themselves. Denying who you really are.
And at the end of the day, that violence is really only happening because it was learned from where? The slave masters.
Yeah. And when there is no enemy, one is created.
And that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, thank you for being on the podcast. I love that. Made a lot of awesome points. Glad we could have that. And yeah, as always, my name is R.E.B.E.L, Arii.Grove. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, all the social medias. Go check me out. I have a new album out called Ignorance. You can find it on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you stream music. And where can we find you?
MadgesdiqCEG, Instagram, Facebook. The website is www.MadgesdiqCEG.com. That's how you spell MadgesdiqCEG. It's the same thing for Instagram, Facebook. And then you can find me at Sage of All Trades. That's CEG of All Trades. So CEG is how you spell Sage. That stands for Claire Elizabeth Grace. So, yeah, Sage of All Trades.
And you can find me at Majestic Vibes, MadgesdiqVibes.
Yeah, we've got a single coming out. Well, we've got a few singles coming out. We've got a library of work waiting to be exposed to the world. But yeah, we've got an EP coming out sometime this summer called Come Alive. And yeah, Champion and Be Still, those are available at the website. Get your t-shirts, your Champion t-shirts. You know, it's just all about being a champion in your everyday life. So
Awesome. Thank you.